Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. I'm just waiting on my guest to come in, Mr. Sherman Baptiste. And as we wait for him to click on, football coaches, you know, yeah, I'm not gonna make a football joke yet. I'm gonna wait till he get here. But so we'll be talking about Sherman's life. Sherman is the Fort Bend ISD Teacher of the Year, and we've been scheduling to do this recording for some time. So hopefully my man to get on and we can do some talking. In the meantime, I am going to just shout out a couple people that I know. I want to give a special shout out to Laura Jeffrey. Laura Jeffrey has been working behind the scenes with the Flipboard EDU Podcast. I also want to give a shout out to Crystal Vanderboom and Aileen Laylor for supporting us over here at the channel. They do a really great job. They edit all of our Flipboard EDU Podcast magazine. So I appreciate that. This is going on our 50th show. Shout out to 50. Excuse me. Never thought I'd be doing 50 podcast episodes and burping on the air. So, wow. Excuse me. In the meantime, and in between time, I'm waiting on my guest to appear. So that's why it may appear like I'm doing a little stalling. What else is going on? Summertime is hit. What's up? Hey, shout out to summer. I don't know about y'all, but hey, I am so happy summer is here. Shoot, it couldn't get here no faster. Hold on just a second. Let me check my screen real quick. While we do that, how about I put on a nice little video for you? How about that? Are you an educator who is looking for ways to engage your students in the class? Okay, hold on one second. I think we're having a little technical difficulty. So let me try to get my man on real quick. Welcome to technology. There we go. Are you looking for a podcast about education? Flipboard EDU Podcast is a great podcast that focuses on digital, remote, and future learning. We will explore how to use Flipboard in education and how it can enhance instruction. You'll hear from teachers, students, and experts who are using this amazing tool in their classrooms. It's not just an educational resource, but also a community of people who want to share ideas with one another. Hey, join our community today. Share your stories, ask questions, or even submit content for us to feature on the show. We want everyone involved in this conversation so we all can learn together as we move into the future of education. This is your favorite coach, Coach Jeffrey, and I look forward to you becoming a part of the Flipboard family. Click here now to follow our podcast. Until next time, family. You're an educator who is looking for ways to engage your students in the classroom? Do you want to create an interactive learning experience that will help them develop critical thinking skills and become more creative? Imagine having a tool that allows you to curate, organize, and share content from all over the web with your students in one place. With Flipboard magazines, you can easily collect articles, videos, images, websites, and other digital content into beautiful magazines that are organized by topic or subject area. These magazines can be shared with anyone, including parents. The Flipboard EDU Podcast speaks to educators using the Flipboard app in education, as well as addressing important topics to educators. We explore how educators are using this tool to enhance instruction and engage in 21st century learning. This is your favorite coach, Coach Jeffrey, and we are found everywhere you listen to podcasts. So like we always do about this time, let's collaborate, communicate, and educate with Flipboard. Shout out to the man, Sherm. What's happening?
What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. Hey, man, I was going to make a football coach joke that you guys are bad with technology, but it might have been my fault.
I'm sitting there, man. I said, I know I'm on time, man. You know how we are about time with football.
Yeah. So, man, let me introduce you first. Let me just give you a welcome, and then I'm going to break into the show, okay? Welcome to the show, my brother. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, great. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to count it down, and then I am going to start the recording, okay?
Got you.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, Flipboard fam. This is your favorite coach, Coach Jeffrey, and I have another amazing guest here tonight. I have Mr. Sherman Baptiste. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me, man. I'm honored to be here.
Yes, great. So, my brother, let's tell our listening audience a little bit about yourself.
Let's see. I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana. Moved to Texas in 2005 after Hurricane Katrina. Graduated from Thurgood Marshall High School. I attended college at Texas A&M Kingsville in South Texas. Go Hoggies. And after that, man, after I played football in college, after my playing career, man, I had a short stint in corporate America, and then I became a high school teacher and a football coach, basketball and track.
Okay. So all of your time is taken up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. All right, my man. So I want to talk to you, first of all, about your experience from Louisiana coming over through Hurricane Katrina. And if you can just walk our listening audience about what you went through as a young man and how you made it and to where you are.
Oh, man. Hurricane Katrina, I would say it was probably one of the most trying times of my life, definitely of my young life. I remember getting to Texas, man. I still remember the date leaving. We left early enough. We know we wasn't like caught in the storm or had to be pulled off a roof or anything like that. But it took us 22 hours to get to Houston.
Wow.
In a car in my mom's 1999 Pontiac Sunfire that kept cutting off every 50 miles. So we end up getting here to my aunt's house, and then I remember the storm hitting, and then the levees breaking and getting the news that we couldn't go back. And it was surreal at that time. You know, you don't understand the severity of certain moments like when they're happening, but everything was like happening really, really fast. I remember it happened maybe like on a Thursday, and then the next Wednesday I was starting school in Houston, and I remember getting to Houston and I hated it. I hated everything about it. I hated the people. I hated the way people talked. I hated the way they dressed. I know they couldn't stand. You know, I was the new kid. It was a bunch of us going to Thurgood Marshall. You know, they loved my accent. They kept asking me to repeat certain things. You know, I remember, you know, 2 weeks, maybe like the first 2 weeks of being there, you know, I act super macho at school, man, because it was, you know, you don't want to be the weak guy at school.
Kind of had to.
Yeah, I remember, you know, going home every day for like 2 weeks, just crying once I got in the car, like, man, I can't believe this. Like, I want to go home. I was really, really homesick because I had a great nucleus of friends in New Orleans, you know, and my mom would just explain to me, son, it's not a home to go back to. You're gonna have to make this work. You know, for the most part, I would say, Marshall welcomed me with open arms, man. It was, a few hiccups here and there, um, just kind of being a new guy. But I remember quitting football, man, as a sophomore. Um, I went to in New Orleans. I went to Gregory Junior High School, which was seventh, eighth, and ninth grade. So we didn't play middle school football, so we had a ninth grade. So I've been playing junior varsity football since I was in the seventh grade. And then, by the time, my school was turning into a high school, so we were already playing varsity football as freshmen. So when I got to Texas, they were already, I think, week 2 in football, and I remember they put me on the sophomore team, and that was just like a culture shock in itself. I remember the shock of seeing, my first Texas practice, or think how many people they had on the football team, and this was Marshall in his Thurgood Marshall in his heyday. I remember, we had 5 programs, 2 freshman teams, 2 JV teams, and a varsity team. So I remember really, really struggling in that area, and struggling with the move, and I ended up quitting. And I quit like that. I played 2 games with him, and then I didn't play the rest of the season. And then I remember the day, man, that kind of changed my life. I was in the PE class. I was getting dressed to go play basketball. It was the spring. It had a season that already passed. We were doing spring workouts. And Coach Dennis Brantley walked through the PE locker room, and he saw me getting dressed. He's like, "Hey, what you doing in here?" He's like, "Oh, I'm getting ready to go hoop, coach. I'm getting ready to hoop." And he's like, "Oh, no, you're not in here no more." And at the time, I'm thinking like, I'm not in football anymore. But he's like, "Nah, you in the field house, man. You're going to play football." And then if Coach Brantley, man, you ain't no telling him no.
Yeah.
So I ended up, he put me back on the team. And I went through spring, and it ended up being the greatest thing that ever happened, because it allowed my acclimation period to really, really take place, because everybody wasn't in season. They were the depth chart was wide open. I was able to show the talent that I had, but it made me a part of something really great. I think the difference is the team was already set when I got there originally, but everybody understood, it's full competition in spring. Everybody's competing for spots and varsity spots, and started interacting and mingling with the guys. And once that happened, the days got a little bit easier. And I remember, making a name for myself in the spring and track season. End up winning the first 200 that I ran. That brought a little attention to me. And it slowly started to happen, man. And I remember my mom's car broke. And at the time I was living, when we first got here, we used to live in like FEMA apartments. They would pay you rent for you. But my zone school, I can say it now, I'm grown now. My zone school was Stratford High School.
Stratford,
way out.
You were way up. For those of us, we have an international audience, believe it or not. And so Stratford is probably about 25 to 30 miles outside of where you're from. And it's a different clientele of people that live over there as well. And so Marshall High School is a predominantly African-American high school in Fort Bend ISD. On the east side, and Stratford is a more well-to-do school. I think about that time they had Andrew Luck as quarterback.
Andrew Luck was the quarterback. I was just about
to. I was a real coach, cuz I tried to tell you.
Andrew Luck was the quarterback over there, man. But Marshall had such a culture where it didn't matter who it was, what kind of glitz and glamour program. We felt like we could beat you. And then so I missed 2 weeks of school. Like this is a very pivotal time. And I remember getting all these calls from school, and it was a real struggle, man. It was stressing my mom out real bad, because there's nothing she could do, get me to school way over there. And we actually thought about switching schools. And I remember Coach Brantley calling to check on me. So for about the next week, he would send somebody on the coaching staff to pick me up from way out there in the morning,
Stafford.
bring me to school. And that became such a burden, man. And I remember that lasted about a week. And a Sunday, we got a knock on the door, and it was Coach Brantley. And, he asked me, where's your mom? And I said in there, he said, man, you go in the room, let me talk to your mom for a minute. And they had a conversation, and they brought me back in the room, and he said, all right, look, this is what's going to happen. It was never what you think about this or anything like that. This is what's going to happen, man. You're going to go to school from my house during the week, and I'm going to drop you back off on the weekend. So Monday through Friday, I'll pick you up on Sunday. Monday through Friday, you'll go to school. You'll come see mom on the weekend. I'll pick you up again Sunday, right? And if he's the head football coach at this time. He doesn't have 300 kids in the program, but he found the time to do it for me. And his son is a quarterback. So we built a great bond. He's still my best friend to this day. We say how things go full circle. So this is my junior year. I lived with Coach Brantley my junior and senior year, even when the car got fixed.
Wow.
This is like my father figure. He kept his hands on me like the whole time, getting a scholarship. I remember I wasn't the greatest of students. I remember having like a real bout with at the time it was the tax test.
Test.
I'm fresh out of Louisiana.
Fresh out of New Orleans, yeah.
I passed the tax test my senior year, So, it was a real thing where he was just like, man, I'm going to give you every opportunity you can to make something of yourself. I really believe in you. So I was going to school from him. So needless to say, my grades were flawless because if Coach Brantley, you're going to pass, you're living in his house. I just remember it being like home from day one. I was in the dishwashing rotation on Wednesdays. That was my, it was no house guest, and end up graduating, man, and getting a scholarship to A&M Kingsville. I had a great career down there. And after I got done playing, I spent some time in the car business. I was really, really good at selling cars, man. I sold cars for, I want to say 13 months. I won Salesman of the Month 9 out of those 13 months. It was talks about finance school and things like that. It was trying to move me into management in the car business. And I ended up leaving to go to oil and gas, man. I was just trying to really, really motivated on making money, and then I got into oil and gas as well. I worked for Stage 3 Separations. I was working hitches 21 and 7, 21 days on the rig, 7 off a rig. And at the time I had 2 small kids. So it just wasn't a life really, really built for me. And the same guy that changed my life in high school is the same guy. And that's the thing that I really feel like it is. That's the kind of coach that I strive to be, because all I did was make a phone call to him. He always promised me, if I wanted to coach, if I wanted to get into, he'll help me. And a year later, man, he hired me. I got my first coaching job. My first teaching job at Worthing High School in HISD. And that was like teaching boot camp right there. It's like, that was it's like you make it through this one. Okay. You really want to be a teacher.
Okay. So Worthing High School, for those of you who don't know, is on the, I don't want to say South Side. Is it the South Side?
Texas.
Yeah. Sunnyside, Texas. And Worthing. See, I got my feet wet at the good old Jefferson Davis High School on the north side. So Worthing High School is predominantly African-American school in a tough neighborhood. And those kids have a lot of challenges. And as a new teacher coming in, that is a very good place to learn what to do and what not to do.
Absolutely.
How to talk to children, how to motivate them. And my hat goes off to anybody that's working at Worthing. As a matter of fact, the principal at Worthing, who was the principal when you were there?
At the time, it was Dwayne Clark.
Dwayne Clark. Okay. So I used to coach against.
I believe.
Yeah, I used to coach against good old Dwayne Clark. He, as a matter of fact, he worked over with us for a little bit on his first principal job.
Absolutely.
Small world, Mr. Baptiste.
Great job. He's a great guy, man.
Yeah.
But I remember he gave me my first opportunity to teach, and it was filled with trial and error. But by the time I got done um, at Worthing, man, they were asking me to stay. It was a beautiful relationship. But I knew what the ultimate goal was. And the following year, Coach Brantley was able to get me over to Elkins. And I started my teaching and coaching career. When I was at Worthing, I just taught. Um, and it did really, really well. It was real good for me, especially in the position that I'm in now. I really do believe that particular year being in that environment is what made me the teacher that I am today, because they were like on Title One, like level 5, whatever the first level is before they close the school.
Yeah.
It was
School improvement. School
absolutely.
improvement.
So they
Yes.
were.
So, I'm sorry. Let me explain that just
Go
for the
ahead.
people who don't understand is that when a school, because of the standardized testing, and Mr. Baptiste alluded to this earlier, we have these state standardized tests. And if you don't get a certain number of students passing the test, then there are certain measures that have to be taken. First, the faculty, the principal is replaced and the faculty is replaced. Then you're to the point to where your school by TEA, the Texas Education Agency, simply because not enough students are passing, and there's a whole bunch of rigor with lesson plans that has to be done, and a whole bunch of different things that you have to do in order to get students to pass the standardized testing. So Mr. Baptiste was saying basically that's where his school was, at the very last level. And that's a stressful environment to also teach in as well.
Man,
Right.
I was observed 37 times in that year. And I used to tell veteran teachers all the time, because when you're a new teacher, everything comes with a small amount of hazing. Especially when I got to Elkins.
Uh-huh.
And I remember, one of the teachers that had been teaching, 20 plus years asked me, what are you going to bring to the table? Or am I nervous? Or something like that, man. And I remember asking, I was like, hey, man, you ever been observed by TEA? And they were like, oh no, never. I've never seen. I said, oh, I've been observed by him 6 times. 13 people in the classroom, stuffed around
Yeah.
all along the walls of the classroom. It was a very nerve-wracking thing at the time,
Yeah.
but then you had regular campus walks from the district, your own campus walks, and you had the state representative to come. I remember in that same year we got a new superintendent. He got hired on a Thursday or Tuesday. Got hired on a Tuesday. He was in my class on Thursday.
Was that Terry Greer? Was that?
Man, I don't want to say the wrong person, but it was 2016. So whoever
Okay.
the guy that they hired in 2016, but I just
Yeah.
remember just thinking like, oh, this is nuts. And
he didn't stay long. He didn't stay long. He left because I left. He
absolutely
left, and I remember he didn't stay long. Yeah.
So,
okay, gotcha.
I just remember having like a great group of kids, the nucleus of kids that were there. It was things going on at Worthing, man, that, like under normal circumstances, teachers would never know goes on. Like when you first start school and they do like some kind of roundup where they making kids go to school, that normally after a certain date, they stop coming.
Yeah.
It was something like that going on.
Wow.
They doing rosters, and I remember one of the veteran teachers was like after I think it was like October or something.
October, they hit you with that snapshot. It ain't
Yeah,
gonna be here no more.
that's exactly the word they used. The snapshot. I can't even remember. It was like, hey
Yeah.
man, after the first snapshot, after October, things will kind of get leveled off. Because it's a mixture of kids, like that absolutely want to be there, and it's a mixture of kids that they're making be there until such time. So it was way different, man. But it made me a great teacher, because you have to start with a discipline level, classroom management. Like it's these skills of being a teacher are really fine tuned in that way, and that's what the biggest lesson that I learned at Worthing. The biggest lesson was that okay, you're a talented individual, and it's a certain part of this job that it takes talent to do. However, teaching is a skill, and you have to have a skill set and certain tools to be able to be successful in the classroom. And if you didn't have it in this environment, anything could happen. I literally mean anything could happen, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, I really do. I thank God. At the time I didn't. But I really thank God for that specific situation of being done, because I thought it was just like, you know what, you brand new, you learn it a certain way, you think it's like this everywhere, right? So when I moved to Elkins, you know, just the simple fact that you didn't have to tell the kids to get to class on time. The hallway was clear in 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Or if I say, hey man, like I always start off the same way. So I'll tell you a funny story, man. So when I learned, like Mr. Clark is a great mentor. So he gave me all these strategies, like, hey, this is how you get things done. You want to establish protocol in your classroom from step one. And the first thing that you do is you control where the seating is. So I would put kids in alphabetical order. And in your mind, like, you do this for one or two reasons, right? Number one, you know exactly where everyone is. I remember the first time I got there. So I started Worthing 2 weeks late, right? 3 weeks late, because I had to go through HR. I got hired the first week of school, as in it's already going. They just needed
already going.
And then 2 weeks after that, it took that long to get through HR. So what ended up happening was they were having certain problems in the classes like that were already going. So they had a long-term sub in this one class, right? So they would take the kids that are like having issues in other classes, and they would put them
with the sub
class with sub, right? The sub, you're gonna get it how you live. You don't understand.
Oh yeah, you in the grease, baby. You in the grease.
Oh, so it was nuts. So by the time I got there, like I think of the movie Sister Act when she walked into the music room.
Oh man. Yeah.
So, you know, I remember like the first day of just sitting there, and I'm trying to like establish a relationship, and these kids aren't listening to anything I'm saying. At the time, I'm 24 years old, and they looking at me like, you knew, like, where you?
Yeah, you ain't even gonna be here, man. You the next new person. That's
absolutely.
They see so many new teachers.
Hey. So I'm telling them, you know, hey man, don't put get your feet off the chair, do this and this, and then it was just I would ask things like, who is this? Like, what is your name? And we'll give you your name.
Would give your name. Hey,
you know, so something happens in the class. And then, you know, these kids, they run click type. So you're not going to ask anybody else, like, who is this? Like, what is his name?
You lucky if you got a handshake, cuz they would just be like,
I don't know
this dude.
I don't know him, you know. So, you know, I had an altercation, man. I tell you, man, I went on administrative leave my third day of work. It took that long. I mean, it was almost grand opening, grand closing in 3 days. I went to take a cell phone from a kid, you know, and without getting too crazy into the story, you know, I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana, man. I'm taught to deal with conflict one way. And they from Sunnyside, Texas, and they taught to deal with conflict the exact same way. You know, so it ended up being, I remember him saying something like, you can chill with that tough guy act, bro. And I remember telling him, oh, this is not an act, you know, and things just escalated from there. And, you know, we had the whole little altercation and dispute, and his cousin ended up being in the class too. So that was a whole deal in itself. But I remember, you know, the situation happened without giving too much detail. And I remember going on administrative leave and being gone for a week. And everybody was asking, like, man, you going to go back? Like, after that, you going to go back? And I'm like, man, y'all must don't know me. Of course I'm going back, you know? And I remember, like, in my mind, like, okay, this is going to be the environment. This is exactly what it is. This is how I'm going to carry myself. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to be somebody different when I walk in these doors. And when I got back, because of what happened, every kid was in there like, don't mess with him, bro. Like, he's crazy.
It actually worked in your favor, huh?
It did.
It rarely does. It rarely does. I don't advise anybody to do that, but it's a good thing that your ending turned out real good.
Absolutely, man. And it ended up being a situation that it wasn't great thing, but I think it needed to happen. So getting back to like, bro, it allowed me to reset and reintroduce myself into a situation of things they knowing like, okay, this dude is about something and he's back after what happened, right? So I would sit them in alphabetical order. Now I can reset to how Mr. Clark told me. So now I know I may not know your name in the first week, but I know on this roll you're a person number 13. And if seat number 13 acts out, I know exactly who it is from the row. So that was the protocol number one. And then it allowed you to take attendance more efficiently, things like that, have an accurate count of things that were happening. And then, it was a struggle because I'm learning to deal with situations in the classroom. Like, man, I've had some crazy jobs. Like car business, it's a slaughterhouse, man, 13, 14-hour days. Same thing with oil and gas. That's 12-hour shifts. So, I came in with the mindset of like, oh, I'm only going to be working from 7 o'clock to 2:45. Oh, this is going to be cake.
And you think you got the summers off. You think you got the summers off.
First 2 weeks, I remember coming home and telling my girl, like, I have never been this tired in my life. Like it was everything, and I didn't understand like the mental capacity that it took. It's so many split-second decisions that you have to make as a teacher, all while staying on the bottom line of you have a responsibility to teach these kids something every day that they walk into your classroom. And you have an objective. And by the time they leave this classroom, no matter what happens, it can be a wrestling match, it can be 6 fights, it can be somebody turn over a desk, somebody throw up, somebody's crying because their boyfriend broke up with them or their girlfriend broke up with them. It can be anything. Even in those things, you have to navigate it to where they learn what they're supposed to learn because each day builds on the next. So learning the skills to be able to put me back in that position. When I got to Elkins, I started off with this extremely like disciplined thing. I put them in alphabetical order. I had my champs to where I'm controlling conversation, movement, everything that you can possibly think of. And I just remember like going over all these rules and then looking back at my first class at Elkins, and they have this look on their face like
we went to jail.
like, bro, just tell us what page you want us to turn it to.
Man.
I went week after week after week, bro, just waiting for something to happen. Like, it's going to happen. Like, I think we're going to get there. Like, somebody's going to do something. And then, I'm telling these kids, like, hey, you got homework on this day. That day.
And they turn it in.
They dropping the homework. And they were, the day before, they pulling out planners. Because I had a pre-AP class. They pulling out planners. And like, what day did you say the homework? Is this homework still due on this day? And I was like, oh, this is nuts. Like, this is stealing money at this point. And I learned, man, like, all those things were absolutely necessary because I have the ability, because no class is the same. You may have a perfect class period from first period to fourth period. And then when that fifth period comes in, it could take the right combination of kids. It's not bad kids, but though you ever just see those people that should never sit together or be together or whatever it is in any kind of professional environment, you get that concoction sometimes. But I always have a way. I tell my kids all the way, hey, don't make me pull the reins back on this thing, because I know how to do it. And I've had to reset a couple of times, but without those days, I truly don't believe I would be the teacher that I am, because without classroom management, creating a culture for learning would be out of the window. And then the culture is what creates relationships. And that's like literally my recipe, my secret to success.
Yeah. And I was going to go there because it sounds as if that you had a coach who cared enough about your educational process to build a relationship with you. And I remember back in those days because I was a new teacher right around the Katrina time. And
Mm-hmm.
so everybody was looking for athletes. If you remember back, they would go to the Astrodome, coaches would come and get people to live with them. And then after the next year, they would these families would like almost be out because the kids wouldn't jail with the other kids in the neighborhood. And it
Absolutely.
was a big Houston versus Louisiana type
Yes.
situation. There's a lot of that going on. But what's amazing to me, it's not amazing, but it's good that someone cared enough about you to mentor you and to show you. And I don't know your situation, but I think that you learned a lot from him for what you were saying. That was your
Mm-hmm.
father figure. And without people like that, education can't go any further for us. We
Absolutely.
need people to come in and step in for us, no matter the color, because when you see somebody in need, if you're an educator like you talked about, getting into altercation with a student and then risking coming back, because not only do you have to save face, okay, now you have to deal with administration. Administration gonna treat you differently. And I know Dwayne Clark.
Absolutely.
Dwayne wasn't gonna be playing with you. No, you better not raise your eyebrows at a kid after that. So
Absolutely.
I'm just saying like that. I know that they went to that. I know you went through that process. So that's just a good thing, man. I'm very proud for you. I'm very proud for you.
And it's the same guy, man, that we talk about, Coach Brantley. I coach with him every day, man. Like that's the point that I wanted to make. I didn't believe I would as a young man until he told me that I could. The vision became clear through the eyes of an expectation that was set by him. And still to this day, man, I coach with him. This same we used to watch film on Thursdays before games at his house. I play receiver. His son was the starting quarterback. And this is what on Saturdays before or Thursdays before we play a game or Fridays after we play the game. We've been doing this stuff since we were 15 years old. Since me and his son was 15 years old. So after a game when we up at the school on Saturday breaking down film and stuff like that, it's literally just the family. We got the same roles that we had when we was 15 years old. We know
Excellent.
exactly when he's coming in to the room. Sometimes we make jokes, man. We write on our notepads all the things that he's gonna say because he locks himself in the room and he watches the film and we watch it together and we're like, okay, he's gonna bring up play number 6 and he's gonna say this is what's supposed to happen. So these are the plays that he's gonna put in, and he comes in and we just start. Look, he'll start on the board and we just check it out. And like, told you. So it's a beautiful thing, man. But for a person to be that invested in you as a kid, and foster you all the way through a high school graduation and then 2 college graduations, but ultimately use his influence to get you a job. And because of that relationship, I'm able to take care of my own family because I have 2 sons, and my sons call him Pops.
Yeah.
His grandfather, so to me, like this job, this thing that I call being a teacher, educator, or football coach, is done through the eyes of I know exactly what somebody did for me, and I know how important this role is. So that's why my walk is a little bit different than a lot of folks.
I feel you on that, man. And so you are I really don't like to advertise school districts. We talked about that, but you are the
Fort
Fort
Bend
Bend
ISD
the teacher of the year,
District
correct?
Teacher of the Year. Yep.
And out of 26 high schools, they can only find Mr. Coach Baptiste.
The one and only, man. The one and only. I thought it was rigged too, man. I said, oh, they giving it to me? No. But I won it for the campus in November or so. I won it for the campus, and it felt great to be recognized by the peers. And then moved on to the district level, and ended up winning it for the district as well. And it's surreal. It's kind of surreal to me because, quite honestly, people ask me all the time like how it feels. Um, it's kind of like an out of body experience, but it's funny to me because I get a bunch of recognition for things that I have been doing all along. So it's just, that's why I tell my kids greatness is not like these major things that happen. It's a bunch of little bitty things done consistently, and all of a sudden somebody notices like, hey, this dude is pretty consistent in this thing, or let me ask him this question. And then the most impact that I've had is helping other teachers, because I remember my experience. I know what it's like to be walking into that classroom on the first day, because I'll tell you, I was scared out of my mind. I'm telling you, they opened that door, and HISD, it ain't no introduction or nothing like that.
Yeah.
It was, this is your new teacher. See you in 90 minutes. Let's see how this goes.
Hey man, some of my best times was teaching and coaching over it in the hood. Man, I really miss the relationships that I was able to. I learned how to, and I had great colleagues that also taught me how to teach. I was the varsity head basketball coach, and I was the JV head coach for a time, and I coached the defensive line on the varsity.
Okay, I think you did coach our blue chip game, man, because the other guy that did it, the receiver coach from Jeff Davis, was a guy with dreadlocks.
That is Coach Floyd, and Mr. Floyd is now the assistant principal at George Ranch High School.
Qantas
Floyd. Shout out to Qantas Floyd.
Yes.
Wow. It's a small world. So for those of you who don't know, I try not to brag on my coaching career, although I'm an assistant principal and I do call myself Coach Jeffrey. Holla at your boy. But I coached Sherman in an all-star game when he was in high school, which was crazy. Absolutely. And so as we were talking, I was like, man, I think I may have coached the game you played. I don't know. But yeah, man, that's a small world, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, beautiful thing though, man. Look how it all comes full circle.
Yeah, I'm very proud for you, sir. And so we have a mutual friend, and I don't want to discount my homeboy who brought you to my attention. That's my homeboy, Mr. Henry.
Absolutely.
How you know Mr. Henry?
Man, so I'll tell you, man, and I do want to take the time to shine light on him. Mr. Henry is another beautiful human, man, that took a liking to me. I was Mr. Henry's office aide in high school as a senior. And me and him built a relationship through that role. He would come to watch me play football, and we would talk about it. He would critique my game a little bit, and then we built a really, really, really good relationship. And he was one of the first people that I actually talked about, like, what was going on, like, inside my head with the transition, things that I was dealing with outside of the classroom or outside of football, what my home life is like. And he became real invested, man. I still call him dad. I still call him a dad to me to this day. I'll tell you something, man. My senior prom, man, something went wrong. My dad was supposed to do something. I can't remember. I don't want to put that on him, man, because I don't even remember exactly what it is. But some funds for prom was not exchanged that was supposed to be. Right. And my mama just couldn't do it, man. And I remember telling him the story of it, and he didn't reply. He didn't respond. He was like, man, everything going to work out. It's going to be good. You're going to be all right.
Yeah. Mr. Henry.
And my tuxedo and the car that I drove to prom, he handled all of that for me, man. And he came to at least 2 games while I was in college. We maintained a relationship all the way through my high school days, all the way through college, and even to this day, man. So I love him, man. He's a great guy.
He's a great human being, and can cook his man. That dude can
Don't
cook.
Tell him that, man. Don't tell him.
Oh, that brother can cook. Oh,
yes,
man.
He can.
I met him as a retired. I didn't know he was an administrator when I met him. Not that I needed to know, but he never, how some people are retired administrators and have this air about themselves. I never sensed that from Mr. Henry. Mr. Henry he just walked around as an aide, and he was at Lander Lane, and whatever the principal at the time was Dr. Blake, and whatever Dr. Blake needed, Mr. Henry would go and do. And so every now and then, Mr. Henry would bring food. And it was so good that I would love going over there. And so Dr. Blake would call me and be like, hey, Mr. Henry cooking today. You gonna come over to our school? Yeah, I'm coming over. Man, listen, Mr. Henry could cook a spider web. I'm telling you. It'll be good.
He'll do it to you too, man. And he's such a great guy to be around. He's so genuine to be around. It doesn't matter what you have going on, man. He's gonna make you feel like it's the best thing in the world happening.
Yes.
So he's a great guy, man. I can't speak enough about him.
Yeah. Shout out to Sidney Henry. All right, my man. Well, that concludes our show, man. I want to get some information from you. Where can our listening audience find you at if they want to reach out to you and have them come speak to teachers or anything like that?
Man, you can just reach out to me on my normal work email. It's Sherman.Baptiste@FortBendISD. I'm also on Facebook. It's Sherman Baptiste. Sherman, Mr. Fort Bend ISD. Shameless plug right there. Mr. Fort Bend ISD Baptiste. And then my normal name on Instagram as well.
Okay, gotcha. And I want to read this real quick. Restream is a live video broadcast that allows you to broadcast to 30 plus social networks at the same time. With multiple broadcasts on different platforms, Restream has enabled millions of people around the world with the ability to engage and monetize their audiences. Choose from classics like Twitch or Facebook Live, or go ahead and experiment with the new streaming services such as YouNow and Twitter Moments for even greater chances that your messages will be seen by whoever wants it. So give Restream a try today and start your free trial. Hey, Mr. Baptiste, Coach. Hey, congratulations, my brother, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, man. It was an honor.